we're also in a completely different market now than we were before. Now that AI has entered the space, what you used to need a couple $1 million for to hire, a engineering team to come in and help you build a prototype or a beta product, you can really go out and build in less than 30 days on your own with YouTube videos just to get a working model to see if it's something that works. And if it is, then you can go out and start to talk to investors and see what the expectations would be for financing so you can build a team around it.
Welcome to the Cashflow Chronicles Open Forum. I'm Matt Allison, a commercial insurance advisor helping businesses protect their cash flow by managing risk and putting the right protections in place.
And I'm Brad Metzger, a commercial lender specializing in finance solutions, from lines of credit and term loans to real estate mortgages. I'm here to help businesses grow and stay flexible.
This podcast is a community-driven conversation for CFOs, finance leaders, and business owners who want real insight into cash flow, credit, and financial resilience.
We keep it practical, collaborative, and to the point.
Powerful finance conversations in under 40 minutes, built for busy professionals. This is the Cashflow Chronicles Open Forum.
Yeah. Christina, thanks so much for joining us here on the Cashflow Chronicles.
Thank you for having me.
I'm really pumped to have you on because you made quite a bit of an impact in the Metro Detroit business community. I know you're a connector. Walk us through a little bit about your professional journey, whether it be your past work life, moving into the entrepreneurial space.
Yeah. So, I started over in the corporate side of the world. I went to school at University of Detroit Mercy and got a master's in psychology. And while I was going to school, I started at what was at the time Quicken Loans out in Livonia. I think we had about 1,500 team members or so when I started. And it was the influx of really like the pinnacle growth moment for what would become Rocket. Dan Gilbert had laid the gauntlet down and said, we are going into a full digital landscape from paper to digital. And so we're all going to get on the train and figure this out. I started in mortgage banking. So I did that for about 10 years. I was the first female director of mortgage banking for the family of companies. Did that through the 2008 financial meltdown, super fun times. And then ultimately ended up moving over and leading process and innovation for the family of companies. So that looked like I had about 200 team members cross-functionally embedded through the business, looking for ways to make shit better, as Dan would say. People, process, and technology. So we would get out and embed ourselves in the teams and figure out how to make stuff better. So I did that for a while. Part of that team was to take incoming ideas from all areas of the business. And that could look like a new flavor of slushy in the slushy machines to, I have an idea to start a new company. And one of those ideas that had come through was to bring fiber internet to the city of Detroit. We had a massive issue with digital divide in the city. And so somehow I got connected to the guy who had the idea to begin with. Dan helped us reach out to Google Fiber. Google said, we will absolutely never come to Detroit. It is not our market. We think it's a dying city. And so in true Dan Gilbert fashion, he said, well, let's figure out if we should do this by ourselves. So we spent about a year doing feasibility studies and business plan, ultimately pitched in front of Dan and the Detroit team and got funding. So that was my branch out from corporate into entrepreneurship. There were 4 of us who kind of came out to do it, the 3 co-founders and then me for the process piece. And we had no ISP, no internet background. We had 2 software engineers, a Bedrock leasing manager, and a process girl that went off to figure out how to build and scale an ISP. We ended up building that out over about 7 years. We sold in 2020, but our infrastructure still is powering the whole city. Basically, every building that you see when you go downtown is still running on our service. Our manhole covers are in the ground. It's this like really cool legacy thing that we built. And then since then, I've just been like trying new stuff, new companies.
So think about the impact you had.
Yeah.
You think infrastructure in Detroit, that's me.
Mm-hmm.
How does that feel to have that level of an impact?
It was a really cool experience when we went through it, because being in like process and business strategy, everything that you build and touch will always be replaced, right? You're building new technology that within 5 to 10 years will be ripped out and replaced. You are creating new teams that will evolve through time. This was this really cool experience to be able to bury fiber into the ground that will be there in perpetuity. We we basically buried our ring under the queue line. So while that whole project was going on, it was a great opportunity for us because we saved so much money, obviously, with Woodward being all opened up. But designing our manhole covers and seeing them put in the ground, and like watch my kids would come down and help me flyer apartments when they were little, and now they're growing up. It is a really, really, really cool thing to feel.
I've been in the Metro Detroit business community for roughly like 5 to 6 years, so 5.5.
Yeah,
And I tell my fiance, and I'm like, "Oh, who do you want to know?" It's really, really cool to know that this is like a big but small community.
yeah.
And so in your case, you're in Detroit, you see
Mhm.
the manhole covers, you're like, "Oh yeah."
That's mine.
It must be a pretty significant feeling, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah, it is. And to know that now Detroit has been able to become this massive tech hub. We have new tech startups coming in and starting literally every single day. And all of these, huge community engagement things with Black Tech Saturdays and Michigan Founders Fund and all of these things that have been able to come as a result of the fact that we're now powering with this massive fiber internet pipeline.
With the culture that you have in Detroit, what makes it perfect for startups?
That is one of them. You can't build a high growth tech startup without good infrastructure. So we now have really great infrastructure. There's all these folks doing a lot of work in the digital divide space as well. But on top of that, it is this really intense community. Like everyone knows each other. Everyone wants to see each other succeed. There's very little to no competition when it comes to startups. Folks will share their ideas with each other. They help each other vet. They're co-working in all of these really cool, incredible spaces throughout the city. And there's people to help you everywhere. I host an event called Founders Friday. It's the first Friday of every month at Bamboo Royal Oak. They're held all over the state. And then we come together quarterly to talk about founder sentiment across the state so that we can talk to, politicians and all the folks who can actually impact that stuff. And it's just always so awesome to see these founders come together and share their stories through time. And you get to see companies that fade out and companies that succeed and new founders coming in. And it's just this like really loving, welcoming community.
So Detroit's kind of a part of the common term of the Rust Belt, the
Hmm.
manufacturing sector.
Yeah.
So if we go back to the bankruptcy of Detroit, it's
Hmm.
like we need to diversify how Detroit works.
Yeah.
How has that been seen in real time from that time into where we currently are? And you're
Yeah.
a part of that, I'm sure,
Yeah.
shift.
So I have, had the privilege of growing up in the city, born and raised at 8 and Gratiot, never left that side of town until I had kids and moved out to the Royal Oak area. And my dad and our family, we were always downtown. And, in the 80s, it was a ghost town. And even when Quicken, now Rocket, moved its headquarters downtown, I think that was 2010, 2011. There were like 3 restaurants you could go to. Hudson Cafe was open, Jose's Tacos, and Grand Trunk and Subway. And you'd walk around on nights and weekends and there was nothing to do. And so all of these folks started to move downtown, and then the restaurants started to open. And now we've got this like crazy eclectic food and bar scene and all of these things. Because of that, it has really impacted the types of people who spend their time downtown. And so you're seeing a lot of this like really creative movement in the entrepreneurship space, everything from, the obvious like SaaS sort of stuff that you'll see. But now we're getting into autonomous vehicle stuff. We've got folks working on drones and satellite things at New Lab at Michigan Central Station. There's a company working on ways to clean up space debris, and folks doing a ton in biomedical work. Like it's so great because when you're someone like me who's like, I'm a builder by nature, I like to try new stuff. And it can be really grounding when you spend time in these communities to come together and say, the things I'm building, I'm not curing cancer, but there are people literally working to cure cancer out of some of these places. And so it's really, really diversified what people are working on and what they're inspired by.
That ecosystem and the passion that people bring to the table.
Mhm.
My brother-in-law and sister are part of like a biomedical startup,
Yeah.
in seeing the steps they've been through.
Yeah.
And he's a PhD in a biomedical PhD, and he's like, well, I'm the president of the company right now.
Yeah.
He's like, it's not fun.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Uh,
not for the faint of heart. Like my husband always says, if building a high growth startup was easy, everyone would do it. There's a reason that folks don't do it.
yeah, I think just people that come into Detroit for the first time,
Hmm.
like, dude, Detroit's awesome.
Yeah.
They don't really realize the national media versus the reality of what it's like here.
Yes. Yeah.
So even just, having worked downtown in the fun 2008 to 2012, I know exactly what you're saying. It's
Ghost town.
ghost town. It's
Yeah.
5 o'clock. There was a couple places to go.
Yeah.
6 o'clock, I'm about trying to find other than going to Grand Trunk.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, it's, I haven't worked downtown in a while and went back. I'm like, this is completely different.
Mhm.
And every year that you go back down,
Yeah.
new season, brand new
Yeah.
year, there's more stuff that's coming, which is
It's so true.
great to see.
Yeah.
Awesome to see the city and it coming back.
Yeah.
So you have a new venture. You are working with Ann Arbor Spark.
I am. Yeah.
So I'm involved with Velocity in Sterling Heights.
Awesome.
Very similar program.
Yep.
But what is Ann Arbor Spark and how are you involved with that now?
Yeah, so Ann Arbor Spark has a lot of different focus areas. Essentially, it is an incubator for startups. They help and fund new ideas, whether that is helping with legal fees or marketing or just business ideas in general. There's accelerator programs, generator programs, grant help, all sorts of things. So I recently just stepped in as an entrepreneur in residence. I've got a couple startups going on for myself, but I'm always looking for ways to help other founders figure out what they're doing. And I happen to have a woman who reached out to me on LinkedIn, and she had an idea to start a company. She found Ann Arbor Spark, wanted to go through the program, and was seeking mentorship. And Ann Arbor Spark said, we'd love to have you as an entrepreneur in residence. So I'm doing that now. Yeah.
As a founder trying to come in,
Yeah.
trying to start a business, what is the most common mistakes that you see with somebody doing a startup?
Folks rushing to execution on an idea that hasn't been vetted yet. So think like, I have had a problem personally. I have an idea to solve it. And so I'm going to go out and like build a team and seek funding and get after that without having done like proper customer discovery. Your experience is limited to you as a human. And so figuring out how to get out into the world and actually see if the idea is something people would use is very critical as a first step.
Is it truly a problem that needs to be fixed?
Correct.
Yeah.
And what other solutions are out there? What is your potential market size? How would you get out and sell? There's a lot of founders with really great ideas, but they don't know how to get out into the world and sell it. And that is a common downfall. We're also in a completely different market now than we were before, now that AI has entered the space. What you used to need a couple $1 million for to hire, a engineering team to come in and help you build a prototype or a beta product, you can really go out and build in less than 30 days on your own with YouTube videos just to get a working model to see if it's something that works. And if it is, then you can go out and start to talk to investors and see what the expectations would be for financing so you can build a team around it.
So what is the Cash Flow Chronicles?
Yeah.
Talking about cash.
Yeah.
With a startup, you have to what's the balance between using speed and discipline of using cash when you have that seed money? What's the discipline that they have to have as a startup?
So there's two different thought processes around that. And it always has to start with where you're trying to get the business to at the end. So imagine a world where you're fast forwarding to the end of your life or the end of your business's life. What do you want that to look like? Are you looking to build and scale a business that is something you will grow and hold on to until you're ready for retirement and then potentially pass it down or go through an acquisition? Or are you building something like one of the companies that I'm building right now is called Hum? We are building a data company that we are looking to sell as quickly as possible. So when it comes to cash flow, we're going to make very different decisions on how and where to spend that capital based off of that. Yeah. So I talk about Rocket Fiber. We thought we would retire with that business. And so we spent a lot of money on the internal systems and processes. We wanted our team members to have really great internal experiences and our clients to have great experiences. With Hum, there's 4 of us. We're building at a rapid pace. I am working off of Excel spreadsheets and, use of really scrappy AI tools so that our operational cost is extremely low. So we maximize the output when we go through the acquisition.
So you would say have an end goal in mind when you get to that point
Yeah.
from the start, or is that once you have the solid vetted idea, you're like, all right, we have this idea,
Yeah.
it's workable as we scale. Do you want to sell in 2 years? Do you want to sell as soon as possible?
Right.
You say that's like, what would be your recommendation?
You should have it vetted first because the answer could shift. So when we launched Hum a couple years ago, the product was completely different than it did now. We were building a product that would basically integrate in with property management software so that we could market internet to tenants when they were moving into properties. We figured through time that model didn't work for us. We've seen a real lockdown on data privacy and data security, and our property management partners said, we're going to pump the brakes with this administration shift that we've seen over the last year. We have to be strategic with how we're using resident data. So we don't really want to share that with you right now. And so we had to basically come together and say, well, crap, that doesn't work. How quickly can we pivot? So we completely rebuilt the product. And now we've got this embeddable widget where folks can shop for and check out for internet natively within applications. Had we gone the property management route, we probably would have been in this for a longer haul. We were building partnerships and it was a larger kind of company model. Now I'm a data plugin. And so it's that decision point has shifted as the product has shifted. So once you get out in the world and actually start getting that user feedback, that's when you're going to, I think, really have an idea of what you want to do with it.
That makes sense. So interesting focus. You talk about EOS and where I have some friends, operator versus a startup founder.
Mm-hmm.
What is some of the lessons you've learned just in the process? They're two different mindsets, correct?
Two different mindsets. And I have found through time, for the most part, not always, there are founders who are able to see things through to this. Doug Song, as an example, he built Duo Security, which ended up getting acquired by Cisco. Idea guy, but also was able to scale it to a unicorn size company. I would say for the most part, that's not super common. There's a lot of times where as a founder, what got you here won't be what gets you there. And that has a lot to do with that. Most people who get into the entrepreneur space have not had like really super robust leadership training. So as your team goes from this like scrappy team of 10 startup go mode into now we've got to scale and build a company, and we're now at 100 team members, 200 team members, 500 team members, 1,000. Is the founder willing to do the work that it takes to grow themselves as a person so that they're able to take that next step?
It's a different skill set.
Completely different skill set.
Yes. You have a skill set that you're good at, but it's like, I'm missing these pieces. You need to add to supplement. Again, surround yourself with good people.
Right.
To do it. So,
and that's the power of a co-founding team too. When I launched, when we got the team together for Rocket Fiber, we had 3 very young, very brilliant, scrappy startup folks. And then I came in with the leadership backing to help us figure out how to build and scale an operational side of the business. That was Mark Hudson, was our CEO at Rocket Fiber. He and I are still business partners to this day. And I knew when I met him, he was a 24-year-old software engineer at the time. And I looked at him and I said, today we're building the internet, but if tomorrow it's soccer balls, I will work with you till the day we are done. We have a very different skill set. He's very visionary, quick to execution, and all things process and operations and people and all of those things. So those are just things to look at too.
From a founder standpoint, what's one habit you would say that they should adapt today and one you should absolutely avoid?
Focus. I say blinders. When you are starting a business, you want to boil the ocean. And in the end, if it's just you or you've got a handful of people working on the idea, you'll never get something to market if you're scattershotting. And so you have to pick one thing, do it well, and then add on to it. When we were first starting into the Rocket Fiber stuff, we were going to do a triple play bundle, and we were creating our own a TV platform, and we were going to build a brick and mortar fiber store on Woodward, and we were bridging digital divide. And at one point we were about a year in, there were 4 of us, and we looked at each other and said, can we just launch the internet in one apartment building? And once we were able to do that and focus, it's great. And so we've really taken that model now and continued on with it. Taking things personally. We as founders typically look at our product as a infant baby child that came right from our bodies. And That is really challenging when you're out in the world fundraising. You will hear far more no's than you will hear yeses. You will hear people want to pick your ideas apart, and you've really got to have the fortitude and the community surrounding you to stay the course. That was one of the most difficult things as we built Hum and went through that fundraising cycle. We had raised a lot of money for Rocket Fiber, and we sold that business at record multiple EBITDA, and it still took us a year to raise money for our second company. And so I really talk to founders a lot about making sure that you've got the right support people around you so that you can call each other and you're like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And you've got the people around you who will be like, yes, you can.
They always remind you, it's like, you've done this before.
Right.
Like,
And like, do you know who you are? Like, we're always like, do you know who you are? Have you met you? Yeah.
yeah. It's like, remember?
Yes, you're there. Yeah. And you will come out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that speaks to the support ecosystem you have in your network.
Yep.
Because, I mean, business is business. So how, in the age of AI and the rate of change that's going on in the world, how has the venture capital funding model changed?
Yeah. There's really no such thing as pre-seed money anymore. Back in the day, you'd have an idea and an investor would take a bet on you as a founder, knowing that likely the idea is going to change. And so you would use that capital to build a small team and get a product out to market. And then you would go out and get a seed round. Now for pre-seed, if you're going to go start seeking pre-seed money, most investors want to see $500,000 to $1 million in ARR. So that's where I'm saying you've got to figure out how to use these AI tools, build a beta and get something out. So you're starting to see some revenue. You likely will not be able to get funding without that.
Has that been a surprise to some startups?
It has. I think people are still adapting to it. I hear it all the time. Once a month, I will have a founder reach out and they're like, I need an idea. Can I talk to you about, or I have an idea. Can I talk to you about how to find capital? And I'm like, no. What do you have a pitch deck? Do you have your customer discovery done? Do you have a full 5-year business plan? Is your beta product done? Are you seeing any revenue coming in? If you don't have that, there's not a single intro that I'm going to make for you right now.
Talked about this is you can literally have a very small idea use AI to get that pitch deck.
Yes.
Items you just mentioned.
Yeah. I am a non-technical founder by trade. I'm a process person. And I am now, I say hands-off keyboard coding. I use Whisper. So I'm literally just talking to my computer and I'm really good at prompts and I can build anything I want basically in a day now.
Which
And
would take months or years.
months or years.
It's funny, a friend of mine, shout out Brad Johnson, he calls it vibe coding
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Vibe coding. Yep.
Versus binary coding.
Yep.
You can actually talk to it.
Yep.
And
It's really cool.
I built an AI agent with him and I'm like, this isn't that hard. It's surprising.
Yeah.
Just how that world has changed with AI.
Yeah. It's really cool. And I tell, all my engineering friends as well, I can build it, but it likely is not like actually functionable out in the world. You still need great technologists to come in and take.
You got to integrate it.
Yes. It just means that we can all work faster.
Yeah. It's never going to replace the true experts in their space, which is what he is.
Yep.
But it just streamlines the process much quicker.
And it is going to have an impact on the up and coming generation because all those entry level jobs are gone. So we're going to see a lot of change in that space too.
So being a parent, and I have some kids I mentor,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously I was talking to them about removing cell phones their senior year. They're all mad about it, and I'm like, this is actually really good for you.
Yeah, really good. Mm-hmm.
So I'm on the bus for an hour and a half. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
Like just talk to people, ask questions.
Yep.
Be creative in how you communicate. And these kids are great kids. I know they took it in stride. They're like, oh, I talked to some new people on a bus ride.
Yep.
Like that's a skill that's going to benefit you in the world of technology.
Yeah, for sure.
So any recommendations for younger generations with that in mind?
So we are very protective with our kids now. I have a 14-year-old and an almost 20-year-old. We were no social media house until our son turned 16. We let him get Instagram. And outside of that, we said, you can have anything you want when you're 18 and move out. And part of that was wanting to make sure that we hold our family dinner time very holy in our family. And our phones are all on the counter together, and being able to raise kids who can sit through a meal without a screen in front of their face was something that was really important to us. And also knowing that we have to teach them how to use these tools so that when they do get out into the world, that they know how to do that. Our son graduated and made the decision that he didn't know what he wanted to do yet. So he was going to hold off on school. So he's working 2 jobs. He's getting ready to buy his first house. And he keeps saying he's doing it because he knows all of his friends are going to come home from college in 2 years and likely will struggle to find jobs, and they can rent his first house and he can go buy the next property.
There you go.
And I'm like, yeah, because you have your whole life to figure out what you want to do. But with AI where it's at right now, it's going to be a different entrance into the workforce. So how do you know how to use technology and also work with your hands and communicate with adults and have all of this other sort of skill set that folks haven't needed for a decade, 2 decades?
Kudos for you as a parent to have a child
Thanks.
buying a house at 20.
I'm not going to lie. There are days my husband and I look at each other and we're like, we did it. And this is wild. Like there's a whole functioning human adult out in the world. Yeah. And he's so awesome. He's just such a good person. So it's fun.
Yeah, that's great.
So let's pivot back to founders and kind of startups.
Yeah.
What are you saying to somebody that's trying to start a business that's overwhelmed right now? What do they need to do?
Just break it down. It's very overwhelming. And when you're able to just sit down and say, what 3 things can I focus on right now? Let's just do 3 things. That I feel like is a way for folks to, it is very overwhelming. There's so much to do. What do you focus on first? And so having a roadmap for the product, spending time with other founders, figuring out their pitfalls, where did they go wrong in their early startup days? But spending a lot of time, like I said, figuring out like, what do you actually want to do as a founder? Because you can build a product in a million different directions, but you have to be clear about what you want your life to look like as you're going through all of that. But it's about breaking down the work into very small, tangible chunks, things that you can do in a week or less. It's like iteration planning. Yeah. And just breaking that down, giving them a list of these are the only 3 things we're working on this week. With the woman that I'm working with for the Spark program, that was exactly where we started. We did a 3-hour meetup last week. We put together a whole here's the things we're going to need to focus on for the next 90 days. And she looked at it and I watched her get overwhelmed. And I said, okay, now I'm just going to give you a sheet that has 3 things on it. And those are the only things I want you to do until we meet next Monday.
It goes back to project management.
Yes.
So when I was in enterprise risk, we were trying to build giant projects or for what it may be. And it's like, oh, well, this is going to be, 12 points.
Yes.
Great. Let's break down those 12 points.
Let's break it down. It's too big.
And just focus on those to do it.
Yeah.
But again, you being processed, you're like, yes, roadmap.
Yeah. Yeah. We started using objectives and key results, but really boiled down from, there's a book called Measure What Matters. It's very dry to read, but there's an audio version that is way better. It's founder stories of them figuring out how to break this work down. And it's meant for enterprise grade. We just basically removed a whole layer of how it functions in the book and just focus on here's the big goals. Here are the tangible things that can be done in, an hour to a week or less. Yeah.
So serving as a mentor with these individuals that have these great ideas, I'm sure that sparks some enthusiasm for you.
Yeah.
What have you learned as a mentor to some of these younger startups with their ideas?
Yeah, I learn and I'm inspired. That's part of the reason that I do the things that I do. I am so inspired every day by the community that I am around, and whether we're talking about the tech side or I'm executive director for the Detroit Executives Association. I know it sounds like you just had John on. I'm excited to listen to that episode. But that group is really small to medium sized, family-owned sort of businesses that are typically brick and mortar service-based organizations. And so I kind of get this really cool opportunity to see, succession planning and scaling this sort of brick and mortar service-based organization, but also get to see this really high growth tech stuff. And so for me, it's figuring out where should I spend my time? Because I for about a year there, I found myself I was everywhere and I felt like my stuff wasn't moving along. My businesses weren't growing. And so I kind of had to buckle back down through the second half of last year. But yeah, really it's that inspiration by spending time with them, hearing the ideas that they have. And there's always ways that I can bring things into my world that they're doing now because AI has changed everything and I'm learning so much. But yeah, just shared experience.
I think that's a really good point. Working with individuals, like, and then for myself too, you can't be widespread everywhere because you can't give dedicated attention to the individuals you're involved with. It's focus your efforts in a specific way.
Yep.
Much like with startups, because we can help everybody.
Yep.
It's a very real story. Would you agree?
Yes. 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 Very real story.
He is amazing. It can impact everyone. Yes, but have a specific ICP.
Yeah.
Ideal client profile and win that way and scale that way.
Yeah. And be the founder that you need to be. That's another challenge is I'll sometimes meet founders that I'm like, it's a great idea. I wouldn't give you money. And that's a whole other challenge. And so you have to really be able to give like that loving feedback of, I want to see this work, but here's the areas of opportunity that I see from you that are going to hold you back.
You have an idea, but you can't sell it.
Correct.
Or you can't vocalize it to
Mhm.
understand
Yeah.
to a common person.
Or you're too aggressive or you're too defensive of your idea. Like there are so many of those sort of like, yeah, just a lot.
See the different style.
Yes, yes, yes.
How real is that environment versus for TV versus in real life?
Well, it's a faster process. So there's actually a company that came out of Michigan State called Brace. They're part of the Michigan Founders Fund. Two college students who had an idea. They had both had injuries as a result of faulty equipment, shoelace related. And so they developed these shoelaces that won't come untied. They actually just got funded last week, 2 weeks ago on Shark Tank. And we were all like, A, so excited for them, but B, it was so fast. Like and also they've been at this for a year. So they've been pitching to other people. This wasn't like, yes, exactly. They've got contracts, all of that. But the fundraising process itself is long. It is iterations on your pitch deck. It is iterations on the way you talk about your product. It is being at every investor meetup and all the pitch days so that when you're ready to ask for capital, that everyone already knows who you are. You're not just like some random person who shows up asking for money. Exactly. Whereas Shark Tank is like, you show up, you got to be like jazz hands, you sell your product and ta-da, now I get money.
And again, that's drama for the
Yes.
like just love
Not entirely real.
Right.
yeah.
A little bit scripted.
Yeah.
Love their high energy presentations. It's like, come on. And I may need those shoelaces, by the way, because as a former runner with ankle issues, you see I'm not wearing shoelaces. So it's really, really enjoyed the conversation. You offer some amazing insights, and I have a number of people I'm going to introduce you to.
Thank you.
Just you have a depth of insights that I think a lot of people will benefit.
Thanks.
So Silicon Valley is known to be kind of like the startup ecosystem for tech.
Yeah.
And some friends of mine, they're like, everyone thinks it's Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
I would compare Detroit to Silicon Valley.
We're coming up.
So
Yeah.
would you say, obviously we're not full to bright
Yeah.
Silicon Valley, but would
Yeah.
you say it's close?
We're getting there. We still have some issues to overcome, primarily in Silicon Valley is this very unique place where there's all these like founder houses and founders can show up at these houses that are pre-funded by someone who has decided that they're going to, own this house. If there's like really cool shows about this, but like you move into a house, you live and you live there for free. You're basically paying for groceries and it's a hacker house and you're sitting with a bunch of other founders and you're all day long coding until you create a product. You go out, you try and sell it. If it doesn't work within 3 months, you're back to the drawing board trying to figure out the next thing. So the failure rate for Silicon-based startups within the first year is dramatically higher than Detroit. But the chances of you figuring out how to build a unicorn company in Silicon Valley are still much higher than they are in Detroit. We always say we're like still Midwest nice here. So we like to limp a product along for like 3 or 5 years before we're finally like, okay, this is not working. Let me go figure out the next thing. So if you look at it, it looks like here in Detroit, the length of a company can be, 3 to 5 years on average. Yeah, but they don't make a single dollar in that 3 to 5 years. So that's one problem, but we don't have like housing stability yet for founders. There's a couple of hacker houses that have opened downtown now that do this, 10 people living in a loft together and hanging out and building. But for the rest of us that are, have families and have built a life and need to make money, there's really not that financial support yet. And so that's one of the big disparaging factors that I think we still have to figure out. There's some efforts being made in that. There's one team that's looking to build like a full apartment complex for founders and their families to come and live that has daycare and workout facilities and all the things. Yeah. And so you would apply, your family would receive a grant, you can move into the space and but we need a lot more of that before we can see something like Silicon Valley.
That's really interesting because, again, it's more of a startup culture and ecosystem, and just that Silicon Valley to help build that. It's like you go to Silicon Valley, you know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
If you can get it, you don't have to afford $1 million, 900 square feet house. But
yeah. And because the investors are able to cast their net so wide, they are much more willing to take risk also than I think a lot of our investor community here in Detroit is. So
yeah, it makes sense because you have that culture there.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So just thank you so much for coming on board.
Yeah.
You have some great insights about the future of what Detroit brings to the table, and you're very involved in the community. How can the listeners help you in any insights you want to leave behind everybody that's listening?
Yeah, I think, first of all, I always say, come to the meetups, Founders Friday, like find me on LinkedIn. I'm always posting about things to do. But between Founders Friday, Black Tech Saturdays, there's always bamboo events happening at, Ann Arbor, Royal Oak. There's 2 Detroit locations, just these community meetups. If you think that startup life might be something that you're interested in doing, even if you don't have an idea, come to these events. Creative Mornings Detroit, like there's all this like really cool stuff. Get out there, meet other people who have done it and are doing it. Maybe you meet a potential co-founder who has an idea and is looking for you. Like you don't necessarily need to be the idea person. Just come and immerse yourself into the community. And then what do I need right now? I mean, more hours in the day and some sunshine probably, but I think I'm doing okay right now. I learned something from a mentor that I had years ago. Her name is Darlene, and she has said, always ask what you can do for someone a minimum of 3 times before you ask for a favor. And that is something that has always stuck with me. And so I think for, anyone who is seeking help, get out in your community and figure out how to help others before you're asking for it for yourself.
Couldn't agree more.
Appreciate it.
Thank you guys. Thanks for having me.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, you've made it all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Make sure you subscribe to the Cashflow Chronicles Open Forum newsletter, drop us a like, and follow us on LinkedIn and YouTube.